Back now to our developing story we brought you at the top of the hour. President Trump is once again threatening a federal takeover of D.C., calling crime, quote, totally out of control.
He posted on Truth Social a little over an hour ago about a man attacked by young people in the district, and he actually just talked about it moments ago. Take a listen.
By the way, I have to say that somebody from Doge was very badly hurt last night. You saw that. A young man who was beat up by a bunch of thugs in D.C., and either they're going to straighten their act out in terms of government and in terms of protection, or we're going to have to federalize and run it the way it's supposed to be run.
So we've been working behind the scenes for the last hour trying to figure out more about this incident. The News 4 team's Ted Oberg joins us from the newsroom now with more on what we can report at this hour. Ted?
Yeah, Erica, not a whole lot of detail in the Trump Truth post there earlier today threatening to federalize D.C.'s law enforcement there. What we do know about this incident, a lot of it from the picture, and then we worked our sources to try and figure out from there. Apparently, this is early Sunday morning on Swan Street Northwest. D.C. Fire called to that spot for an assault. They checked out the young man in the photograph there. No one was taken to the hospital, we're told. MPD did investigate. The U.S. attorney says they are not prosecuting. In the normal course of business, we believe, based on the context of Trump's tweet, that it would go to the D.C. Attorney General's office, which handles juvenile crime in the district. And that office is not commenting, at least not yet. We did check some stats, though, on juvenile crime to see if President Trump is reacting to some dramatic increase in juvenile crime. And while the stats aren't completely up to date, they don't appear to be spiking in D.C., at least not according to the stats that are most recently available. In fact, they are as low in the most recent stats, which are, as I say, are not through 2025, as low as they were in sort of the COVID era. And the D.C. U.S. Attorney General's office is prosecuting almost 85% of violent crime committed by juveniles here in the district. And they have taken criticism in the past for the level of crimes that they prosecute allegedly committed by juveniles. But it does not appear that, at least in the most recent statistics, that there's room for criticism that it's getting that they're going soft somehow on juvenile crime here in the district, at least according to the numbers that we're able to see early. But look, we're continuing to work our sources to try and figure out more about this incident. Clearly, the young man in that photograph appears to be hurt, but what we do know is that he was not taken to the hospital, and we're still unaware of the charges that have been placed in this case. So,
Ted, this would likely then fall in the newly named D.C. Attorney General Jeanine Pirro's lap?
No. This is to Brian Schwab's office. Okay. So for a long time in D.C., there have been sort of two tracks for crime for criminal prosecutions. All adult crime is handled by D.C. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro, and then juvenile crime for a long time here in D.C. has been handled by the Attorney General's office.
Understood.
And you've mentioned no arrests have been made in this case.
I think right? we don't know the status of the arrest right now. In juvenile crime, Jim, until and unless the alleged assailants are charged as adults, the amount of information we're allowed to know about them is very, very limited. And so they will be handled as juveniles in a sort of a separate track. I assume that at some point we will know whether charges were filed. We will likely not know whom they were filed against.
And in his Truth Social post today, he said that laws should be changed so that juveniles can be charged as adults for longer jail time or prison time.
So in D.C., Jim, it is an interesting note the president makes there. In D.C., juveniles can be charged as adults for certain crimes and in certain circumstances. They are limited, and they do have some limits placed on them and a process of how that is done, but it is not entirely correct to say that juveniles in D.C. cannot be charged.
But likely pretty rare.
Not necessarily. In circumstances where the crime is severe, the U.S. Attorney does have an avenue. I just did get a statement, if I could read it very briefly, from the Attorney General's office here. No one who lives, works, or visits D.C. should experience this. Speaking of what happened early Sunday morning. It is horrific and disturbing, says the Attorney General. I cannot comment on specific cases, but know that when MPD brings us cases with sufficient evidence of juveniles who have broken the law and hurt people, we will prosecute them and ensure they face consequences for their actions. That a direct response to the president's Truth Social post.
All right, got a lot of attention from the White House. A story we'll be following throughout the evening and late tonight too. Ted Oberg on the live desk. Ted, thanks so much.
You bet.